The talk about where we're going with the technology, how hardware is going to exploit it, and what choices the vendors have is a really big, interesting thing. And I know I get looked at a lot as an authority here, but the problem is everybody's waving their hands around. Nobody has this hardware really to work on. We have some preliminary things. The work that's going on with CUDA is actually one of the things that gives NVIDIA a strong lead right now. They have all the work that's going on with that. They're learning a lot with it, and it is influencing their directions. And I'm pretty excited about future generations there. ATI and Apple have their own sort of initiatives on making general purpose computing stuff. And there's always the 900-pound gorilla in the room of Microsoft. And what gets laid down as far as DX compute, how well is that going to work across everybody? Does that become the standard that drives all of this? And that's dangerous because, again, we don't know. We do not have the experience here. With OpenGL and D3D, we had the wonderful background done by SGI, Evans and Sutherland, all of these people that have gone and done this. They've been there, done that, learned a lot of lessons, and a lot of those people went on to specify these APIs. Right now, we have toy research projects on all of these things, nothing resembling a real app as we would look at it as a gaming app. So we don't know what these issues are, and there are billion-dollar bets going on with this. And it's, I wouldn't want to be in some of those shoes about having to make a play. You don't have all the information that you need. You don't have the data. You need to do these research projects across these different architectures, and nobody has time to do this. Building a game engine takes years. You can't spend years on speculative architectures. Everybody's making their plays, and it's going to be real interesting to see how it turns out. I mean, I have a lot of thoughts here, but I am speaking from a position of only crumbs of knowledge about where we need to go. I have experience. We've gone through a lot of these expansions of capabilities across S&P and across GPUs, and there are parallels that I think I can draw, but I'm hesitant to draw too many because it really is going from one processor to 2 to 4 is a very different step than going to 128 threads or 10,000 threads. And there are things that we've been thinking about internally about how we make the change on game logic, how you wind up parallelizing the code that is interestingly right nowadays the game code winds up being the larger CPU time sink than the rendering code, the way we're setting things up. In some ways, it's because there's more programmers working there, it's a little bit more spread out, but it is one of our significant performance targets. And the question of how do you run game code reliably across lots of threads, it's a tough question, and I get frustrated and irritated when some went behind the ears naive young programmer says, we just thread it, as if that's the answer to everything. And as we come back to all of the problems that you have with massive code bases, problems creeping in from anywhere. It is so much worse with multitasking, deadlocks, all of this. I literally spent a couple of days on something last week with some crummy deadlock in Microsoft's FMV video code. It was actually an interesting thing where on the 360, bringing up some background video loading things for us, it was amazingly easy to work with. It was one of those I thought, looked at the API and said, they did a great job on this. This lets you come in at whatever level of complexity you want. I tried it in the space of just no time at all. I had video playing there. And then I was locked down for a couple days with it hanging 1 minute into this setup on loading and a deadlock there, locked in their code. And they didn't really figure out what the hell was the problem. I didn't have their source code to look at on there. But it was one of those voodoo things where, well, I stopped doing one particular thing and the deadlock went away. And there is far more embedded software than anyone would really like to be faced with, where you don't want to program by accident, you want to know how everything really works on there, but there are these cases where you don't have all the source code. It's the obvious now. You say, well, I can't find out what's going on in there. But the more common problem is just that you don't have the time and the mental bandwidth to evaluate everything in the code base. We were at a time, through Quake 3, I knew everything about the game. I wrote the baseline of everything, and other programmers worked on top of it. Up through, towards the end of that project, everything was derived from code I wrote. I had global knowledge. And it was only at the end, the first big step, where when we brought on John Paul's bot code into Quake 3, now there was a big bot batch of code I knew nothing about. And it only went downhill from there. Doom 3, we hired on a bunch more programmers. There are files that I probably have never even opened. And that's frightening when you look at that. And to say all that stuff's going on there. And that's only going to get worse in the future. And parallelism, it's hard to overstate how much worse that makes everything. And I still think While it's nice to see some light of some other developers and people of note coming out and saying this really is an issue, you need to worry about this, it should influence architectures for future hardware if possible. Anything you can do to make this better, it's really important. But I still think that it's easy to, in most things, I'm the optimist. I'm always the glass is half full, look on the positive side. There's going to be something good that we can take out of anything. And that's the temptation to look and say, won't 10,000 threads be awesome? And yeah, there's elements to that, but there is going to be a cost to that. And we're still grappling with the architectures and what we're going to try to do to address that. So I guess I'm over an hour and a half in, so let's open it up for questions now. Is Marty still out there? Yeah.
Okay, on Quakecon, when you said that you weren't going to release an SDK as a level designer, because when you look at Quake 2 and Quake 3, and the amount of players that mods brought into the game, and the longevity that added to the game, you decided it would be a good thing to have the ability to create mods, to perpetuate the longevity. I just wondered why you wouldn't want to do that.
Well, because basically all the tools are still the Quake 3 tools. The idea, the way you build a map is you build it in Quake 3. There's almost nothing that is Quake 5 specific on there. I do believe we will. It's probably incorrect to say there won't be an SDK, but there will be updated game code, I would think. That's actually Marty's call on there, that the modifications that we made to the game code will be made available for everybody to be able to test their maps discreetly there. And eventually there may wind up being aspects of Quake 5 where we can have kind of private server testing, and there will be that type of thing there. It's not there now. But the big takeaway though is that all development that's Quake Arena based will feed into Quake 5. And it was not difficult to pick and choose the things that we needed from there. And I would hope that if things go well, in a year from now, Quake 5 is a great going concern. There probably will be some more official packaging up of things, but it's not something that's coming in the coming months.
I think a lot of us were a little jarred by the announcement that EA was going to be doing the development on the publishing on Rage. Can you give us any kind of insight on that? I know that.
Yeah, so let me speak a little bit to the publishing side of things there. And it's easy to read. This E3 was kind of funny in that there were a lot of things that looked like there were trends and waves that were random happenstances and different things. And it's easy for people outside to read more into something than is actually there. We did not have a huge falling out with Activision or anything. We've been working with them for a long time. They're still publishing Wolfenstein. But the way we did it with Rage is we've actually gone out and shopped the title 3 times. It was right after Doom 3, we said, hey, here's the thumbnail sketch of where we're going with the next game. And we got offers from publishers. It was nice to know that we have the position where publishers will say, okay, sight unseen, we'll give you this many $1 million for your next game development. And we basically said, okay, we'll think about it. And we started the game development and we went through it. We're in a nice position where we can fund our own game development, and that allowed us to build the game up, went through if we had signed a deal before we did the reboot from Darkness, I'm sure that would have been really traumatic for whatever publisher we were with. For them to just say, it's like, okay, we've given you all of this and you're just flushing all of this down the toilet. So we didn't even have to have that conversation with the publisher. We just let the people that we were working with know, okay, we've changed our minds, we're doing something different. And as we went through, when we got to the point where we had proof of concepts of the technology, kind of showing what it was going to look like, how we were looking at the driving aspect first. And this is an important element where we're not necessarily doing as good of a job as we should in conveying the message of the game here, where a lot of people thought because we showed driving first, driving game. And it's not. It's an action first-person shooter game. The driving is an aspect to it. We drive from place to place, and there are a couple of racetracks there. But it is an FPS first and foremost. And so we did another round of going around all the different publishers, talking with them about that. And Activision was generally coming in with the best deal, very high up there. But we still kind of kept on and said, well, we've got numbers from everybody, we're looking into different things. And just recently, we did the 3rd round and said, okay, here we can actually show you what the game's going to look like. This is what the game's going to be about. Everybody make a final offer. And they all came in, and there were good offers from several publishers. And we, in addition to Activision and EA, we talked with THQ and Sega. And a lot of people came with, there were pros and cons to every developer there, or every publisher. And in the end, it did come down to kind of between the heavyweights, Activision and EA. And there was some aspect to, we have been with Activision for a long time. We haven't been, our last couple of partner projects haven't gone off all that well for all sorts of other reasons. The idea of taking a fresh start with EA partners had some appeal to it. We talked with some of the other people. Valve speaks very highly of their relationship with the EA partners people, that